As Ukraine's counteroffensive gains momentum, Russia is deploying some of its last good reserves.
Here's a summary of the article.
In just the last couple of weeks, the Ukrainian Army and Independent Air Assault Force have liberated Robotyne in Zaporizhia, while the Ukrainian Marine Corps has ejected Russian troops from Urozhainy, 60 miles east of Robotyne in the Mokry Yaly River Valley. The twin Ukrainian victories bring Kyiv's forces a few miles closer to their two main objectives in southern Ukraine. The Ukrainians aim to free the cities of Melitopol and Mariupol from their Russian occupiers. The 76th GAAD couldn't prevent the Ukrainians from liberating much of southern Ukraine north of the Dnipro River last fall. In late October, 76th Division gunners devastated a column from the Ukrainian 35th Marine Brigade outside Kostromka, 20 miles north of the Dnipro. In committing the 76th GAAD to halt a Ukrainian attack in southern Ukraine, for the second time in a year, the Kremlin is going all in. If the Ukrainians can maintain their momentum in the south, they might force the Russians to make a hard choice, to hold in the south or hold in the east.
This post received a score of 3,800, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
I feel like this really is a slow boil until the floodgates are broken. We're very lucky they are so fucking stupid.
And it feels like it's ramping up now. Their adjustments were so critical to keeping it going.
Russia uses missile strikes to level unfriendly cities and all of them.
They'll strike their own cities if the rubble helps slow their enemies' advance.
The traditional Russian way. It worked against the Mongols and they haven't changed it since. To be fair to them, it also worked against the Napoleonic French and the Germans, too.
When did it work against the Mongols? There was no Russia back then regardless, but the Mongols swept over the region pretty effortlessly.
Russia as it is basically exists because Moscow formed an alliance with the Mongols and attacked other cities in the Kievan Rus. Moscow was burned to the ground several times by the Mongols, by the way. And once by Timur Irc. The major power that avoided this was actually Novgorod, not Moscow.
Ukraine probably puts more priority on chewing up Russia's last good reserves thoroughly and with minimal losses than they do on taking the same land back a week sooner.
Better to brutalize the invaders and get them to leave on their own accord with minimal damage to your own troops than to launch a massive frontal assault and take huge losses trying to drive them out immediately.
Glad that the Ukrainians are pushing more and more into their successful counteroffensive.
Ukraine is making steady but good progress. So impressed by the success of the Ukrainian army, they have put the Russians to shame.
Yeah, considering how much time Russia had to prepare, it's impressive that Ukraine has these bigger and smaller victories every few days. On the other side, I haven't read about any Russian successes since Bakhmut and we are only seeing them being pushed back week after week.
Forbes has this disturbing habit of putting pro-Russian headlines on their articles. It says, right in the article, that the brigade being redeployed isn't part of Russia's reserves, it was active on the front lines of Crimea. So it's a shuffling of active troops, not a reserve unit. All indications are that Russia has no reserves left, they're shuffling troops from one part of the line to another with no downtime. And yet the headline just accepts the Russian label of reserves. Deployed units stop being reserves, and this one has been deployed since the start of the war.
Aren't these chucklefucks weighing another mobilization right now as well? Woof.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.